Let's make a charcoal retort out of two 55-gallon drums. First things first, I have to cut the barrel down. So I'm drawing a line here perfectly around the barrel so that I can cut the top off. There we go. Just using a little grinder here with some of those really thin, really cheap grinding discs. I got these from Harbor Freight though. The Walmart ones wear out way too fast. Here on the other end, I'm cutting the lid off in a way that I can reuse it. So what you do is you just grind all the way around directly below that lip, barely through the metal, and once you start seeing the oil come through, you should be able to grind it down enough where you can just pop that lid right off. Boom, just like that. I'm going to be taking about 8 inches out of this barrel, so I'm just measuring down from the seam all the way down, and I'm going to cut it along the seam and along the new line that I draw. Once I get the 8 inches taken out, I've got it clamped together, and I'm adding some self-tapping screws. I was going to do it symmetrically, but I changed my mind. I'm going to put 2 screws here. I'm going to cut all my height off of the bottom back here. You got to take some of the height off so that it'll fit inside of your 55-gallon drum. I think I took about 6 inches off. Now I'm cutting the inside of the top of the barrel off so that I can close it down and make it fit on my new barrel. This was actually very complicated, and in retrospect, I would have much rather just bought a 30-gallon barrel, but I didn't have one at my disposal, so I basically made one. And this part was by far the hardest and just most complicated part of the whole build. All right, so instead of fastening it here, I went ahead and I cut a little strap out and I put it along the outside, and I put some self-tapping screws through the strap to connect the thing, and it fits. It goes on very well. The problem is right here where it comes together, it's kind of angled out like this. It's not perfectly circular, so there is a slight gap here. I'm thinking if I take about 1/4 to 1/2 inch, I don't want to take too much because once you take too much you can't put it back. I'm thinking that I might take about 1/4 inch off of this little lip right here and then tighten that up a little bit more and add the screws and put it back on to make it tighter. But yeah, so far so good. That worked. That did exactly what I wanted it to do. And I'm gonna have to cut down the lid part to fit in here, and once I do that, I can fasten it in place with some of these, and one down, one to go. I was considering doing the bottom in the way where you cut the circle bigger than what you need and put it on, and then cut little slits like this and bend them over all the way around, and then just kind of screwing it in and maybe welding it. But this way gives you that little rolled lip there, and it's just added support, and it's going to help it to keep its shape. So I like it like this. Even though it's a little more work, I think I'm going to do top and bottom the same way. This is also a good way to remake a lid too, if you're ever wanting to do that. But all right, so I'm going to fix that and see what happens, and then after that we'll be putting this back on. Because this isn't a perfect circle, I had to keep making adjustments and setting the lid down, marking it, and cutting more off as I went along. Okay, got it. So I'm going to put some screws around the outside to hold it in place. I set the barrel on the lid and drew and made my circle, and then did my little lines that I'm going to be cutting so that I can do the thing where you fold it over. Once I got all the tabs bent over, I just started adding self-tapping screws. I've got the barrel sitting on a 2x4 there that's mounted to my 2 sawhorses, and I've got another 2x4 under it that doesn't go all the way to the edge. That really helped with doing this part, so that I could have a place where I could screw and I wouldn't push the barrel away from me while I was installing the self-tapping screw. All right, so I added some legs to the bottom to keep it up off the bottom of the burn pit. I got everything completed. My lid looks good. It's nice and tight. I actually have to bang that on with a mallet. I bent the lip out like this. Okay, so I drilled 4 small portholes on the bottom for the gases to escape. And I added a handle on the top, and then on the sides, you can see right here, I JB welded these bolts in place. So I'm going to put this on, and a little nut's going to go on here, And this is gonna hold the lid in place so that I can use the handle to pick it up and down. But it's ready to go. I'm about to load some wood in it and get it started right now. So I bought this Rutland 2000 degree furnace cement for sealing up my retort. I couldn't weld it without burning through it with my stick welder, but
Tips on how to weld metal this thin are greatly appreciated.
I cleaned the barrel up pretty good. I put this in on all the seams and I slowly started firing it off, and now it's burning at the temperature that it needs to. So I'm gonna let that set, and hopefully this cures and seams it up for me, or it seals it up for me rather, so that I'll be able to start using this as my retort for making my charcoal instead of using this, because I can get twice as much out of that. So we'll see what happens. All right, I got it in there, got it all sealed up with that sealant. And see, the bottom, about 2/3 of this is vertical pieces of this, and then I cut the top pieces with my miter saw and shove them in there like this to fill it up as much as I can. And I'm gonna fill the outside of this with pallet wood, and I'm gonna have to keep feeding it as the wood burns down. I already know that until pyrolysis starts, but see what happens. All right, it's loaded up. Got my vent door open. I sprayed a little bit of accelerant on there. I think some brake cleaner or something like that, just to help it get started. I'm gonna light it from the top and the bottom, and then I'm gonna put my smokeless burn barrel on it and see if that helps with creating a secondary ignition up top. And then I'm gonna put my stack on it. So here goes nothing.
It smokes a little bit at first because of the cardboard that I've got in there to help the fire get going. I've since learned to use my blower in that little opening in the bottom.
All right, so I've basically turned this into an incinerator. As you can see, practically no smoke. There was a lot of smoke at first. I used my blower to blow into the hole in the bottom there to get everything burning good. And then once it got burning, don't need to anymore. And there's gonna be residual smoke. I've got some hardwood in there that's probably gonna smoke when it lights up, things like that. But these pallets that I'm burning, I got a buttload of pallets. Once they start burning, they basically don't put off any smoke. I mean, they burn pretty quick, but look at this. This is freaking piping hot. So pyrolysis should start pretty soon. Hear that? The pyrolysis hasn't even started yet, and it already sounds like that. This is a heck of a good fire, y'all. All right, so the pyrolysis has definitely started. You can see it coming out of the seam right there. You can hear it. It's coming out of the seam of the barrel. It's not coming out of the little hole I put in the top yet, but it will. Took the lid off and added more wood. Can't believe how clean of a burn this is. Having that smokeless burn barrel on top really helps. 100% smoke free. Yep.
The majority of the burn looked just like this.
Perfect. Fire's finally coming out of that little hole I drilled in the top. So that means 100% pyrolysis is happening inside the barrel. The reason I drilled that hole in the top is because when no more flame is coming out of that, I know it's finished. Okay, it's finished. There's no more pyrolysis happening. I have to smother the oxygen and let it cool down. So I'm going to take it out of this barrel and I'm going to put it in this barrel that doesn't have any holes in it whatsoever and has a nice tight seal on the lid. All right, I got it in my barrel. Yeah, I'll check that tomorrow and see if we have charcoal. Hopefully there's not a fire going inside of there and it's going to burn all my wood up, but we'll see what happens. See if that little retort I made is going to work, or if I'm going to have to go back to using that, which is what I have used previously 2 times, and it works perfectly well. It's just one of those little garbage can things from Home Depot. I put all my ash that came out of this in there and put some water on it, and I'm gonna make some biochar out of that. But yeah, see what happens. Did my homemade charcoal retort work, or am I gonna have to go back to using the one that I bought? It's the moment of truth. All right, this has been out here all night. Oh boy, let me just set this. I'm scurried. I'm scurried. Charcoal. It did work, and some of the pieces are pretty big, but I only got about 50% out of this, and I get at least 70% out of the smaller barrel, and I believe it's because this isn't sealed as much as I would like it to be. I don't think that furnace sealant that I bought's working very well, and there's too much heat allowed to get in the barrel, and some of it's probably just burning away. So this does work, but I'm going to have to figure out a way to weld these seams. All right, well, there you go. Made some homemade charcoal in my backyard in a basically smokeless charcoal retort. It smoked a little bit at first, but you know, once I put the oxygen to it and got the flame going good, no smoke whatsoever. You can totally do this in your neighborhood. Even the smoke that came out of the retort just burned right off as a secondary burn because of my smokeless burn barrel that I set on top. So this is pretty awesome. You can make your own charcoal, and it's not that hard to do. And remember, if you don't know how to do it, you can always do it with Chomp.